What's up chaps, I'm MagicalMike and this is the Point of No Return patch, but who gives a damn because expansion hype, right? Obviously I'm gonna spoil stuff, otherwise I'd have nothing to talk about, but if you want to know if this one's worth your time, without spoiling, then yes. Go and play it if you haven't and you care about it, otherwise carry on listening to me drone on about stuff. So on the whole, yes, it is a good patch. It had a bunch of moments and sequences that were fun to play through once, or twice. And the thing is that once I've beaten a story once or twice, I likely won't ever touch it again. It really doesn't have much replayability, and that's really what Guild Wars 2 is lacking for me right now. I've done all these zones and I've played all the story, and it's struggling to keep me interested beyond these short content updates. And if the Heart of the Thorns truly is an expansion, I really hope it adds some replayability to the game. And I don't mean a couple more dungeon paths and a handful of fractals, because I don't truly find those interesting once they become standard gold making procedure. Anyway, I'm not buying into anything right now. Guild Wars 2 is failing to really hype me up in any respect these days, because the community goes mental at everything and I just can't deal with it. So I'm reserving my judgment until we get to hear more on the 24th, and until then I'm going to remain cynical about it. Excuse that mini rant there, I'm struggling with the community at the moment with the inescapable expansion discussion. Anyway, let's go on to talking about the new bits of the Silverwastes first. The spleen and bladder extractors are now available, which is great, but the eye and kidney extractors are not. And I lost my interest in farming the organs a long time ago, but now that I can grab a bunch more of them more reliably, I'll get back to it for a bit. However, I'm still deeply unhappy with the RNG in harvesting the right organs when it's new, and who knows if we'll even be getting the final two extractors at all. We don't know that yet. And on top of that, there's more RNG in getting the coat boxes from the boss chest. And you might argue that the alternative is putting all this stuff into the gem store, but I disagree and would like to just see less repetitive grind, because all they really do is take a ranged weapon into a zone and spam 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You do it with Ellie, you do it with Necro, you do it with Warrior. Yes, that's pretty much it, honestly. And I just find all this Zerg content quite boring. And collecting skins that I won't ever use isn't really my thing, because I already have my favourite armours already. The new boss there has made it more interesting though. If I could single that part out and forget about the rest of the zone, it'd be pretty awesome. I do like the boss, I like the mechanics mostly, and think that the loot rewards are ludicrously good. Maybe even too good, which means I'll likely just hop into almost done breached Silverwastes just to get maximum bandit crests. And they did address the issue of people just hopping around the metal bosses though, by debuffing you with the ability to only harvest from one boss type for a long time, which I'm okay with, but it's still a bit ham-fisted and a bit late. Similarly, they also debuff you from joining different lanes in the end boss fight, and this mechanic is a little bit disappointing for me, because I'd like to go and help out the next lane, beat that boss with the experience that I just got by failing it. On the whole though, it is a decent addition to the rest of the world bosses, and if you didn't have to go through the entire section of the Silverwaste just to open that up, it would be much more fun. But I do like the lane mechanics, the ammo gathering stuff, the jumping on plants to avoid the ground stomp attacks, and all the 3 different champions that you gotta fight. It's a pretty good fight overall. So what about the story then? Well, the first instance was pretty great, but that's mostly nostalgia talking, I think. It's basically a simplified version of all 3 Ascension missions from the first game, and there's also a hidden doppelganger fight as well, which was unexpectedly tough for me. The warrior that popped out almost killed me with its OP skills, and let's just ignore the fact that I had those OP skills as well, because that makes me look bad. As expected, Churiosa just does appear, and there isn't really any light shed on his character or anything about him, to be honest. He's just fan service, and we don't even get to see actual forgotten ghosts, just the sort of enchanted bows and hammers and arrows and stuff that they fire at you, which was a little bit disappointing. And really that's that. It was pretty good, but again, it just had no replayability. Although you could say the achievements are replayability, but you know, I got those within 2 or 3 attempts, so that was it. And when I did go and try to help some other people with the achievements, I found that I couldn't interact with any of the shards if I didn't own that instance, which was monumentally stupid. Why have a section where you've got to split up into 3 parts if you can't do that and you have to wait on the instance owner to do it? I don't get it. The second instance could have replayability if mobs dropped any loot, The siege environment is atmospheric and dramatic, and I felt like we were going to lose the Pact camp at any moment. Genuinely, I really did that. The soldiers running about and things being blown up and Traherne giving orders in the background and people taking proper positions were all really cool to see and experience to be a part of that. And I was surprised that we actually kept hold of the camp in the end. Like I said, I genuinely thought we were going to lose that fight. Mind you, everyone should be dead because we blew our allies up into smithereens with the glory of Tyria, which was conveniently placed, and somehow we survived that massive aerial bombardment. Don't question it, just it's logical somehow. The only real gripe I had with this was that Air had only just decided to mention that Bram was her son at that particular moment when you arrive. I mean, is now really the time to be just bringing that up out of the blue? Why, yeah, alright, okay. And the final instance was, well, it was hit and miss for me. There was no Forgotten, there was no explanation as to what exactly the cave was, there was a bunch of thrown in story cutscenes and a really good boss fight at the end. In my opinion, Keith made an incredibly snap decision if you were to ask me. She didn't even try to talk to Foulane. I mean, I get it, she understood that Foulane wasn't going to be reasoned with, but it seemed like it was there just really for shock value. It felt a little bit forced to me. And once again, it's still Sylvari stuff that I just don't connect with. Especially as a Norn player, there's just nothing really for my character in the current story arc. Maybe if I was a Sylvari, I'd be more interested, but it just so happens that I'm not. So it suffers in that respect. Keith didn't even give us any answers about the egg either, even if we did manage to get to talk to her for a few seconds about it. And then she managed to escape again with it during the boss encounter that you don't even get to see. Alright then. However, the cave itself was stunning and the Shadow of the Dragon was a fun fight. I do love Guild Wars 2 for its small scale bosses, because when these mechanics all come together, and these mechanics matter, and you can see what's going on, it's really good. And I can't stand Zerg content because it just takes away so much from what it means to fight these bosses in small encounters. The various attacks and stages that you have to beat are interesting, and they build up to a fairly complex fight in the end. Not too complex, it's still pretty casual, and I quite liked that. If I was looking for super complex, I'd go and fight the Worm with smaller and smaller groups, or I'd ask for Liadri back again. But I do have to stress that currently I did really enjoy killing the Shadow of the Dragon, and I also enjoyed its very fair and semi-challenging achievements. And I also liked the placement of the challenge mote at the end of it that instantly restarted the fight and put the buffs back on your character to make sure that you understood what was going on. Very, very good improvements. And I should also mention that the option to skip some of these cutscenes was finally given to us, which was great, even if you couldn't skip certain ones, and even if they were sort of semi-ruined by certain weird bugs like mini-pets making ridiculous photobombs in certain emotional scenes. Yeah. I will also complain that pressing F to kill the Shadow of the Dragon was a little bit lame. I understood it for Scarlet, but while I understood it for the Shadow of the Dragon, it just didn't feel very epic to me. I mean, I ran up to it, I pressed F, and I did, woo, Divine Fire, dead. Yeah, it didn't really feel too cool to me. I was half expecting an Ocarina of Time stab in the face with the Master Sword, but that didn't happen, and I was left slightly disappointed by it. And the final thing to talk about are the cutscenes. And they were cool. I'd be lying if I said that they didn't hype me a little bit. I do enjoy when we get to see these sorts of things. But it was ruined by the tacky splash screen at the end, straight up advertising the PAX panel in a very YouTube sort of way. It felt so out of place in-game, and I'm all for raising awareness about stuff and keeping people informed in-game, but it just felt ridiculous at that point, and I actually shook my head when I saw it. It took me right out of it. In the end though, that is it. That's all I have to say about all the stuff in the Point of No Return. I've got very mixed feelings at the moment because I refuse to let myself get excited about an expansion, but I also hope that it is going to be something good. We'll have to see, but I don't have much patience for discussing it right now. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. Ta-ra.